Walk around the compound, see some tigers and some squeaks. Ooh, ooh, snuffly in the sun. Snuffle set. Oh my goodness. Excuse me. Biting in the sun. Grumpy in the sunset. Everything is so much more beautiful in the sunset. Oh my goodness, Allie. Allie, telling that boy what for, huh? Oh my goodness. Yeah, girl power. OMG. OMG. Hey, Sugar Pie, how are you? Right next to the freezer. Right next to the freezer compressor. That's what that noise is. Just got done butchering. Hands. Oh my gosh. What happened? Are you okay, Derek? Did you slip and fall? Did you land on some thumbtacks? No, I didn't. I'm fine. Don't worry, it's not my blood. Oh, I've never used that joke before. Hello, all you big cat lovers out there. It's me, Derek, again. Welcome to another super fantastic, wonderful, exciting addition of the Walk Around the Compound webcast. An Egyptian, yes. Walk like an Egyptian. Oh, Layla, go by. See, I knew that you were gonna. I knew it. I knew I was gonna get you to come by. Didn't take too much. Convince him. Gotta get her locked up tomorrow. She's the only cat, only one that did not lock up. Had to get some other kitty cats. Look at this sunset. Isn't that beautiful? Kitty cats. Tomorrow's feed day. So the kitty cats, they're not like completely hi Rasa. Well, you're actually being nice to me. You're being nice to me. That's so wonderful. I am happy for these things. Sometimes you have a little bit of crazy pants on. Mean face. Yeah. Just a roving, just hell on wheels, a hellcat. Oh, look at that glow. Oh. Capture. So much snuffles. But it's the day before feed, so cats aren't all like full of meat and proteins and sleepy, but they're not like, you know, going crazy like, where's my dinner? So it's a good time. And as per usual, I've been up for a considerable amount of time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hey, but I'm feeling really good. Pretty normal. Yeah, pretty normal. As normal as I can feel. Because he's a wild guy, am I right? I mean, seriously, where do you come up with all this crazy stuff, wacky man? I've always been bothered by that. When people say, like, you have too much time on your hands. Oh my gosh, you have too much time on your hands. I'm like, I have just as much time on my hands as everyone else has on their hands. It's just that, okay, everyone has their thing. Maybe your thing is to tie fishing lures, and that's your thing. And then maybe your thing is to go and get your nails done in ornate and decorative patterns that you find festooned in magazines. Or BuzzFeed's top 23 best nail jobs of 2013. Maybe that's your thing. My thing is to just ramble stuff off the top of my head and try to come up with ornate concepts. You do that enough, then you just start to get to the point where you can just kind of do it. And then it's not so much that like, oh, you're just like, oh, he's so talented, but it's like you've just gone through so many different conceptual type things in your brain space that a lot of the more out there or foreign type concepts are already actually fairly familiar. So yeah. Thinking and thoughts and creativity, that's good stuff. That's pride stuff. pride strong stuff. I think that creativity is a very important element of being in the pride. Not taking yourself too seriously, but still knowing like when, you know, seriousness is warranted, because there's a lot of serious things in the world. It's not all jocularity and peets and squeaks and laughter and whatnot. But looking for things like truth and objectivity, and looking for solutions, and cutting out the speculation, sticking to the things that, well, not necessarily cutting out speculation, I should say, but sticking to things that are factual, that are objectively true, knowing the things that are objectively true so that you can more productively engage in speculation. And I'm talking about anything, like trying to like solve a problem, trying to understand. It's like you waste time. If you're trying to solve a problem, you're wasting your time and the time of everyone else around you if you're not versing yourself on information that's already very, you know, well documented and available. You got to go out there and you got to find the stuff that is just simply true. So once you get the true stuff out of the way, the fact-based stuff out of the way, what's left is, okay, now we can try to brainstorm. Now we can try to come up with ideas. Now we can try to speculate on things. Now we can get into that creative side of ourselves. Hi, sugar, bye. I know, you was peeing. You was a peeing. Oh. You can hear Cassie all the way from the other side of the compound. Just sassing away. Just sassing away. So pretty. Such a nice day. You know, my days are limited out here at the compound when I can actually physically be here. And it's funny because, like, some people, there's one new volunteer, her name is Sabrina. She's very nice. I've been literally just calling her, like, you know, Sarah, Carmen, you know, just Sade, just whatever, like anything like S or a C name, that's what I've just been calling her, except her actual name, which is Sabrina. But she's been volunteering and she's actually familiar with the content. And hi Boom. And I've been away from the compound, you know, I mean, I have to go be away for the old jobbity job. And she was and she's not in the, like, I'm gonna say something that's gonna make her seem like a dum-dum, but she's not. She's smart. She's just kind of had a brain fart. She was sitting there saying, like, I thought that you were gone for like a bunch of days, but you were like posting stuff like on all your accounts. Like, what? How did? And I'm just like, yeah, you can save stuff on your phone and you can post it. It's pretty amazing technology. It's like a thing called a camera roll, or you can just upload a bunch of videos on YouTube. You can have everything set to private. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I know it seems like magic, but it's not. But it's not. And then of course she was giving me, you know, just like that, okay, now you're being a douche, you know, kind of smile. So, but that was, yeah, she's a good egg, good kid. Flash. Oh, get you. Yeah, kids these days. I was thinking about a couple of different things. It's kind of strange just where your mind can kind of go to, because I was thinking about like the claim of when people say like, oh, kids these days, they're all soft and it's all this PC nonsense is because of the softness of the children and the soft and the things. And when I was young, I was so much more tough and I could do things. I could smash my hands into a pile of thumbtacks and I didn't have to do any sort of screaming or whining, and I liked it because it just made me feel satisfied. weird and stuff like that. People, you know, and that's been like a thing throughout the ages. Like, our generation is awesome, your generation down there sucks. I mean, that goes back to like Roman times and Viking times. I mean, you know, parents were saying stuff like that. So our older generations were saying that about younger generations. But I do certainly think, though, that we are seeing a lot of different things that are fueled by a lot of different factors. I think technology and the fact that we are more connected now on this world than we ever have been before. We're more in tune with, oh my gosh, we're more in tune with cuteness. Look at what the technology allows me to do. Zoom in on the cuteness. Oh, you're being sneaky. Look at him being sneaky. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Whoa! Goodness gracious! Wow! Wow, Ra! That was very cute. That was very cute. I think that there's a lot of different factors that go into that. I mean, we're more in tune now with we're more aware of just different types of, and I've talked about this, and I'm not going to get into that stuff. I'm going to actually get into some other things revolving around those topics, but also just the differences between young people and old people and how they think. Like older folks, I mean, they've just gone through experiences, and I remember just being, you know, a very just a drippy, sugar-laden, just kind of like the world and just things and just how, you know, like how we're all connected, man, and stuff like that. When I was like young in my formative years, and some of the stuff, it was just like, it was drippy. It was just drippy and gross and just, you know, but there's a lot of times when you're young, you just kind of, you're a little bit more, you're more of like a ball of just like unfocused emotion about a lot of different things. And that's okay. That's okay. That's a normal part of development. You have to kind of be like that. You have to. That's an important kind of thing. Hi, Sugar Pie. Hi, Sugar Pie. I want to tell you something about my feelings. And it's just like, no, it's not a bad thing to talk about your feelings. It's not a bad thing to like express your feelings. It's not a bad idea to like really try to break apart, you know, or break down like some of the more complex elements of your feelings so that you don't end up bringing like negative elements into your family life later on. I mean, that's important. But there is a point where it's just like, let's talk about our feelings some more. And this is like, all right, we talked about them a lot. No, I want you to know how much feelings I have. And it's like, I'm good. I'm good, thanks. No, I don't think you know. I've got so many. But it's like when people, they become more in tune with each other and like we're more connected via social media, via the internet. And we've got a historical perspective to go back on. We've got a lot of different, cultural, you know, things that have converged, because of like the Industrial Revolution and all the different types of, nations that have been brought together or cast asunder. And they kind of rewrite the rules for, you know, what it means to, you know, be a citizen and have rights and all sorts of different things. I mean, there's a time when like women weren't allowed to wear pants without intense scrutiny. Like, oh my goodness gracious. Like, what are they thinking? Wearing pants? How dare they? Hi, Kate. Hi, Kate. So it is interesting. But it's like whenever you like talk to like people in the older generation, they do kind of have just kind of like, I'm tough. But it's like, but there's also the element, they've just been through life. They've seen things, they've experienced things. They've lost friends, they've lost loved ones. They have been tempered in the fires of life. And that's just true for anyone that makes it to a certain age. You're just going to accumulate experiences and it's gonna toughen you up. Whereas when you're young and you're a teenager and you're trying to express like the really deep feelings that you have, you don't have like a lot, like generally speaking, now there's some teenagers that have some pretty crazy experiences, but a lot of teenagers, they just don't. They don't have a lot of life experiences. They're not paying mortgages, or they're not raising kids, or they don't have family members. They maybe haven't lost a lot of people in their life. So it's just kind of like, you know, like just the concept of feelings, but anything really like truly tangible. I'm not saying there's a lot of teenagers who they've had it rough. I'm not saying that there's not, but you know what I'm talking about. And then you look at things like culturally, things that happen across like generations. And I was starting to think like things that generations before that collectively had to deal with, had to endure. And I was thinking about some of the events of the early part of the 20th century, you know, some of the great struggles between nations, the world wars, and how that really did kind of galvanize like entire populations of people, like large groups of people towards that common goal. Like, hey, there's a bunch of guys and they're trying to kill us, and okay, look, feelings are cool, but we got to go and kill those guys before they kill us. And we all have to work together to do that. Is everyone cool with that? Yeah, totally cool. I don't want to die. It's like when you have like an entire like society that is oriented towards those types of goals, then yes, when those individuals who lived through those times, those difficult times, those trying times, those individuals as a whole, they're going to grow up. And they're not going to ever want their kids, they're never going to want their youth to experience the atrocities, the horribleness, the sacrifices that they themselves had to endure. They don't. They like almost, unless you're just a psycho, almost no parent wants their kid to have it worse off or harder than they themselves had it. And when you're talking about a generation of people who they went through 2 world wars, they went through like an economic depression, and all this crazy stuff. They didn't want their kids to go through that stuff. So they tried to just create just a little bit more of a happy and sanitized life. Just a happy and sanitized, like, you know, like the 50s and the 60s, like the young people that came out of that were the products of people who just saw just horrors. Like, not just abroad. I mean, they had to just sacrifice so much at home. They had to, like, Yano. I see you breathing in there. You were walking around mooing earlier. Oh, I'm not even focused. So it's like they themselves were the ones that set up this idyllic kind of life for their kids. So they're just like, look, we're never going to be able to wipe away the stain of just this deep scar in our national psyche, but at least we can make it so that our kids don't have to deal with it, that our kids don't have to endure these painful hardships. And I think that interestingly enough, like as far as like, hi Clyde, as far as like the West, as far as like Western type, thank you for the P. As far as Western type stuff is concerned, yeah, I think that's a factor. It's not just like a point where like, that's it, that's exactly why people are the way they are. That's why old people can be kind of grumpy and they don't look at the young people good, and then the young people are just like, what's wrong with you, old man? Blah, 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 blah. I mean, there's again, with any sort of issue, there's a lot of complexity, there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of different elements that have to come together. But I think that's a very major driving element. That's a major player. Those large scale events that shaped the psyche. And every generation has their form of struggle. Every generation has. So like the kids of the individuals who dealt with things like the Depression, who dealt with like World War II. The kids, they had the civil rights movement, and then they had the Vietnam stuff, and then they had like the bra burning stuff, and then the rise of, you know, more modern feminism, and they had like the Kent State shootings, and they had all that. They had the Russians that were just like, "Da, come, you will die, America. I will beat, you know, my shoe on the lectern and say we will bury you." And there was all there. That was their version, you know, of struggles. So now you're talking about individuals who, you know, had their formative years in the 50s and the 60s, and then going on maybe a little bit into the 70s, and now they're the ones that are not starting to, but they're saying like, "Oh, kids these days, the young ones, they don't struggle." But isn't that the point? Isn't that the point? Is like to make it easy, but I don't know, like, but maybe you're doing a disservice. Like, should there be some sort of like national strife that will allow for a galvanization of sorts of ideologies that brings people together? I mean, maybe if we actually had like an Independence Day type thing where aliens came down from space, and they weren't the nice aliens from like Close Encounter, you know, where like the dude like Richard Dreyfuss was like, "Oh, he's doing it too, it's so beautiful." I mean, they're not the nice aliens. They're just like, "We're gonna come down here and smash your face and steal all your air," aliens. Like, "Oh no, those are not the aliens that we want to deal with." I think that people would band together. People would band together. They would come together and they'd be like, "Hey, I know that we've spent a lot of centuries basically killing and hating on each other. Ace, you and I would band together to fight the aliens. You know it. You know it." But yeah. No, I guess I was sitting there thinking about like, because I was thinking, you know, like the kids these days and the softness, and I was using that, and then I started to like actually go through the progression of like World War I and like how it kicked off, because that's a fact that how that whole thing, both the world wars and how they kicked off, horrible events as far as humanity is concerned, but like from a scholarly standpoint, fascinating. I mean, they're fascinating developments within the course of humanity. Yeah, like World War I is an interesting one. I mean, it's kicked off by Europe, and it, like there's like so many different little things that had to kind of come together to make it to where basically everyone just started killing everyone. And it was like the sheer volume of death was absolutely driven by the advancements in technology. Hi! What? But squeaks brought them together. But it was interesting when they're talking about some things about like I remember hearing about like Germany, and how Germany was even formed, how it was kind of like a conglomeration of like 7 different little countries that all decided to like one day, like, "Yeah, let's all come together and make a country." And then they're like, "Cool." And then they did. And like literally overnight, they became like the largest and most populated country in all of Europe. And for centuries, these countries, all of them, like France and Germany and Belgium and all these places, they just hated each other. But they would engage in battles. They would engage in skirmishes and fights. But you're talking about stuff like they would have like horses, and they would draw their sabers, and they would have like muskets that they would have to load, and you know, it would take a long time, and they would stand up in a line, and it was a very gentlemanly affair. And of course, I'm going to go and I'm going to take your land, and then maybe 10 years from now you'll take a little bit back of mine, and then we'll say, "Oh, right, good show, chap." And then we'll meet in the middle of the battlefield, and we'll shake hands and have tea. That's how we'll conduct ourselves for a number of centuries. I mean, it really is like how they did things for a long, long time. And don't get me wrong, you got like Napoleon, they killed a lot of people. But there was like a period of like 20 to 30 years near the turn of the century, where the guns went from like powder, you know, put the thing in, and like you gotta do this stuff, and then tap, 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 and then you gotta pull the thing back out. You gotta put the thing in, and then you gotta get the thing in the flintlock, and then you gotta wait for your officer. Okay, you gotta do that all over again. Like, it went from that to it was pretty alarming. Well, I think, semi-automatic, of course, definitely had a little bit more of a heyday, but maybe I should say like probably from like 70 years, like 50 to 70 years, it went from that. So that was like a really small, so there are people alive during the time who like they grew up, and they maybe were young soldiers during the time when it was like stuff the single shot into the thing, pointed at the guy, line up, and then, okay, a couple of them fall down, but most of them are still standing. And it's just like this kind of tactical kind of thing to literally just mowing everything down. And here's the thing. When they started to have those fights and those skirmishes with each other in World War I, like, they still thought with that old, like, all right, we got to stand up and we've got to go and we've got to charge them gallantly on the and they're like, oh my God, everyone's dead. Holy shit. Whoa. Okay. Whoa. It's like, I lost like 500 guys at once. Like, what? Yeah, I did. I know. It's crazy. I need like 500 more. I think I got it this time. Like 500 more. All right, you got 500? Nice. All right, you 500 guys. Go get them. Ah, crap. Ah, fart noodle. Not again. And it was, yeah, that really, and I know that, I mean, kind of I'm making light of like just really, but sometimes you got to compartmentalize these types of things, and through the lens of history, there's a lot of separation that takes place as far as this stuff is concerned. But yeah. It's all because of that Austro-Hungarian Empire, and they kind of were exerting their political will and influence over their little neighbor Serbia. Teeny little neighbor Serbia. And the Austro-Hungarian Empire was one of the big players in Europe, and they were friends with Germany at the time. They were friends with Germany. And the Austro-Hungarian Empire, they had kind of exerted some of their will, and they had gone into some of those little low-level skirmishes with some of their neighboring countries like Serbia, and they were able to basically, they told Serbia, like, look, you get to basically be a country, but we're just going to kind of tell you what to do. And Serbia was kind of steamed about that. They were like, oh, we don't like this stupid Austro-Hungarian Empire, a bunch of jerks. And that's when the whole thing with like the, Archduke, the Ferdinand, the big mustache, he got, killed when he went to go visit Serbia. Because you got to sit there and think of it like this. Like, let's say like Arizona, like kind of like economically and militarily kind of pressures New Mexico into kind of just doing whatever it wants. And every once in a while, you'll get like an Arizona senator like going over to New Mexico, just being like, haha, like it's so wonderful to do business and everything, but the New Mexicans are just like, ugh, those dirty Arizonans. And then like one of the New Mexicans like decides to like actually kill one of those Arizona politicians. And then Arizona is furious. They're furious at New Mexico. And then Arizona asks their big, strong friend, Texas, like, hey, we got to do something about this New Mexico. And then Texas is like, I don't got to beef with Mexico, but I guess since we're friends, I got to just back you up. All right, whatever. So Arizona decides to go in and smash the crap out of New Mexico. Like, yeah, you were a bunch of jerks. But New Mexico's friend is California. And California's like, whoa, Arizona, what are you doing? What are you doing? That's not cool. That's not cool. That's my bro. That's my bro. And now Texas is like, you talking to my bro? What's going on? That's basically how it happened. And everyone just started drawing lines in the sand, and everyone started picking sides. And everyone had the ability, everyone at this point, whereas maybe like 30 or 40 years before, they did not have this ability, but everyone now had the ability to go scary. For the first time ever, for the first time in human history, we had that ability to go and everyone hated everyone. Yeah. Learned a lot of lessons. Learned a lot of lessons from that one. Wow. So yeah, it was, you know, like 20 million people. 20 million people. I think on the Allied side alone died in that. $20 million. It's kind of crazy. And I think if, you know, this is getting a little bit more deep into the whole thing, but Kaiser Wilhelm, he was like the head honcho of Germany at the time. And he had recently fired Otto von Bismarck, who was like the supreme like presidential kind of diplomat. Look, some of you guys, some of you international countries, I don't understand. I really don't. I don't understand this. We're like, oh yeah, well, we have a prime minister and we also have a president. And I was like, how does that work? Like, what? Like, who's in charge? Well, sometimes the one is in charge and then sometimes the other is in charge and we all just kind of get along. And it's like, all right. Like, me as an American, I don't understand it. I don't get it at all. But that's kind of the whole thing. Like, Kaiser Wilhelm, and it was a hereditary position. Like, he was born into his position of power. But he was kind of a dud. Wasn't a great leader. Otto von Bismarck was an amazing leader. And he actually kept the grumpy European countries pretty much just kind of like playing nice with each other for many, many years. And the people loved him. And like even like experts nowadays, they look at like some of the things that Otto von Bismarck did. And they even say it's just like, wow, like we don't even know why he made some of the decisions that he did as like an ambassador, as a diplomat. To keep some of like, you know, like France and Russia and Germany and all of like this well before World War I. But he kind of like kept the peace and like, you know, through a lot of these, with a lot of these nations. But as soon as like he was kind of deposed, as soon as he was kind of like let go and his Bismarckian brand of diplomacy kind of eroded throughout Europe, that's when a lot of historians actually make the claim that things like really just started to go to crap. And then the Serbians killed Archduke. The Archduke. The Duke! The Duke! Dun, 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 dun. But diamonds are a girl's best friend. I know I'm getting really deep with the references right now. Oh boy, I've been up for a very long time. I think that is probably all that I need to do for this episode of the Walk Around the Compound webcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was interesting, entertaining, informative, all of those things. I am gonna go pass out. All right, talk to you folks there. Bye-bye.